there's a lot of things that people can save you from yourself on if you allow them to, because you never have done it before and you can't see what you don't know.
So our conversation that we're going to have with Dr. Lona here is listen through the lens of not someday. This is about today, regardless of where you are in the process, because step number one is about vision, right? It's about vision stories. So we're going to talk about like, what does success look like to you? We're going to talk about step two.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Hey, it's Dr. Stephen Franson, and I'm super stoked for today's Remarkable CEO Podcast interview with our very own Dr. Lona Cook, one of our in-house launch experts. So, Dr. Lona, why don't you say hi and introduce yourselves? It's always special to have any guests on the show. We love it, especially when we have an expert like you. So say hi.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Stephen. I super love the conversation of launch because I've been through it quite a few times myself. And so I'm excited to get to listen to you and chime in here and there today.
Well, we are blessed, and I'm excited to get into it too. I've been living in this space, spending a lot of time on our remarkable launch process. So I knew I had to just get you in on this conversation. I mean, I know you've got deep expertise here, but some people listening might not know, who you are, what you've done. So why don't you just quick back on the napkin bio, like what makes you a new practice launch expert?
Okay, you have the best analogies of communication. Probably why I would say that this is like an area that I feel very comfortable in is I've been in practice 13 years, going on 14 in Western Wisconsin, and have launched 4 chiropractic practices in that time. 3 of them being brick and mortar practices. Taken those, put doctors in place, and have actually gone through the buyout process there now the second time. So the launch and all the phases that TRP teaches, I love because it's definitely been important for me to have your counsel on so many things. And then one of my practices is actually launched in a school district. So that's a little bit different, but still a launch, and all the things apply, just a little different scenario as far as the 4 walls that we operate in.
Just awesome. Yeah. So you not only have a heart for the students, the new graduates, those associates who are getting ready to launch and start their own practice, but you also have a big heart for kids too. So it's worth mentioning while we got you here in front of everybody is I love the program that you've got, and we'll probably have you back to talk about like how we're going to get more kids under regular chiropractic care by getting chiropractic into the school system. So conversation for another day. You're also an author. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book you wrote and why'd you write a book?
Yeah. Well, early on in practice, I had a love for writing, and I knew I wanted to always be a chiropractor. So most people don't know that my undergrad was in creative writing. That was my focus because I did know I was going to go to chiropractic school. But after I launched my first practice and it grew pretty quickly, I looked back after the first 2 years. I had paid off my student loans. I had opened that brick and mortar, learned some things not to do. And I thought I should write down what I just went through while it's still fresh and put it in a format that maybe someone else like me that would have liked to read that during school, chiropractic school especially, or beginning stages of practice could listen to or read through a quick read on, yes, you can open. Yes, you can do it successfully. You're going to need some support along the way, but it's a firsthand account. And by writing that, it really opened up a lot of doors in chiropractic leadership for me. So I got to travel around and meet other people that helped me keep growing. And it's been a great experience.
Yeah, but that's so easy for you, being a single woman, professional, dedicated to career, right? So it's taken 100% of your focus to date. And I'm from Boston, so sarcasm is my first language. You got a family you're raising too at the same time, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been through many iterations. Sometimes I think about the 13 years and it feels like so many lifetimes. But yet it also feels like I've only been out in the practicing world quickly too. So you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's why your vision, which I know we're going to talk about, is so important because it gives you that that lifeblood really to keep going. I've had 2 kids along the way. My mom died and was sick for a long time. So I can speak to a lot of people on the like navigating life at the same time, still like following your vision and pushing forward.
Super impressive. We have so many powerful female chiropractors out there. We have 7 chiropractors in my family. You guys have us outnumbered. There's 4 females. So I know exactly where I stand in the pecking order. And I married my favorite chiropractor. So I'm a champion of female chiropractors and just love when, we see somebody like you who lead from this place of just authority and grace. So I just want to recognize you for that. It's just so awesome to watch you. It's like, the expression, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Nah, that's the wrong, that's the wrong perspective. It's like, the question should be, how can I have my cake and eat it too? And Lona Cook, you're just doing it here. So we're blessed to have you with us in the studio today. Let's talk about launching a new practice. So, you've been inside the remarkable practice now for 4 or 5 years or more, right? So it's been, I kind of lose track of all these years, but you've been through the cycle, right? So you've been through all 4 seasons: launch, build, scale, and exit, right? So you have this comprehensive and rich perspective on the arc of the career, right? Which is really, that gives you such an advantage when you're coaching, some of these doctors out there, regardless of where they are in the 4 seasons, because you've been through all 4 of them multiple times, right? So today I'm just going to ask you to just zoom in on launch. But whenever we're coaching people in launch, we have this view of their whole career, don't we? It's like, it's launch to build to scale, and scale to exit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think bird's eye view on things sometimes is hard when we're in it. But when we think about, most of us, when we meet a new patient, we kind of have that where we're like, oh, I can already see you as your potential and what's possible for you, even when they can't. And I think it's really a harmonious conversation to kind of how we feel as we see maybe a new chiropractor or a student or someone who's just starting the journey. It's like, you're so excited for them and they're about to transform on pretty much every level. And it's a beautiful ride. That's for sure.
It is. So I had the opportunity to speak at Life University last week. I taught at assembly, and I was just, they had me up at the podium, and I'm like 5 seconds on a podium. I'm jumping off the stage, and I'm in the crowd, and I'm just pacing along and put my hands on the students, and I'm just looking around, and my heart was full because of just what you just said. You can see, like, there's excitement, there's fear, there's trepidation, there's just cluelessness, there's this naivety that, you just like, you just want to love on them and speak into them. Is just like, listen, I know that you have a whole bunch of questions in your head right now, and I'm going to address those things that I know you're thinking and you're asking right now, but I'm also going to tell you, this is what you should be asking me. Right. So, and to be able to just like speak into them, like, listen, I'm going to answer those first 5 questions that I know you have because you're distracted by it. But really, this is what you should be asking me, and this is what we're going to get after. So, hey, I'm going to kick it off with some structure, because you and I could go all day on this. So, let's use our construct of the 5 phases of the remarkable launch process, right? So there's a lot to do when you're a student or a new grad or somebody who's wrapping up their associate program. There's lots you should be doing while you're in school. There's a lot you could be doing, right, to really save yourself time. And when you hear us say time, gang, you should be thinking money, because everybody knows the expression, time is money. Time is money. Okay. So your student loans are going to come due, and you're going to want to make sure that you have got a business that has picked up some momentum and is throwing revenues and you're profitable. So whatever you can do, the sooner you start, the better. And frankly, we all know the expression, the best time to plant an oak tree, 50 years ago. When's the next best time? Today, right? So our conversation that we're going to have with Dr. Lona here is listen through the lens of not someday. This is about today, regardless of where you are in the process, because step number 1 is about vision, right? It's about vision story. So we're going to talk about, like, what does success look like to you? We're going to talk about step 2, which is plan capturing that vision into a written plan so that you can recruit the team you'll need to manifest it. Then there'll be step 3, which is the search, right? The search is finding that ideal location based on that vision story. And number 4 is the build out, which is making that vision a reality and actually constructing your physical plan. And then there's the launch, right? Getting started. So you know what, Dr. Lona, I'm going to ask you some questions and they're going to sound very similar. Number 1, what's the blind spot? Like, how critically important is it to establish that vision story that's going to guide this whole process?
There's nothing more important. And that comes from you. It has to be your vision, which is like, know thyself, right? And that I think is sometimes the biggest hurdle that I see with students is, you can be head down in school for every year of your life, basically from childhood up until the point you walk across the stage for chiropractic graduation, and you've been following the herd. And so if you don't know what you really want, it's time to start to ask yourself that question. And part of finding that out is going out in the world, finding mentors, getting into practices where you actually don't like how they practice, because knowing what you don't like helps you get really clear about what you do want. And that clarity is so important when it comes to manifestation later down the road.
Yeah, I love that. We say that clarity is the greatest accelerant. Right. So the more clear you are, the faster and more likely the manifestation of your vision will be. Right. So this vision, I want to double click on what you just said is what does success look like to you? Right. So this is an unearthing. Right. So you got to do the work. You got to get out the journal. You got to get out the pencil, and you've got to do the work, and you've got to go inward, and you got to figure out, it's like, what does success look like to me? It's an inside out process, like all true things are, right? So it's inside out. It's going to come out of you. You can be inspired by others, so you should, pick out parts of different people that you admire, the way they practice, whether it's, I like the look and feel of this place. I love the clinical flow of this place. And man, this team's amazing. I love this location. And, what is it? The energy, the music, the tribe, like all of it, like spend time. That doesn't cost you anything. Spend time around all these other chiropractors. Not only will you get that experience of the visual in your own mind, so you can imprint on yourself like a visual to inspire you, but you'll also pick up on their certainty and their conviction and their clarity, right? So certainty is contagious, right? So you want to spend your time with, chiropractors that inspire you, and all of those things will feed into that vision story. But be really cautious when you do this, like do the work. And most people will skip, this sort of unsexy step. But my pastor said something once that really stuck with me, that has served me really well, which was, be careful how you define success, because you're going to spend a lifetime pursuing it. And that's definitely true when it comes to this part of the project. So now we're capturing, or I said, we have our vision that we're conjuring up in our mind. Now we have to capture it, right? So phase 2, right? So this is the second stage of this, is the planning process, which is capturing your vision, right? So putting together your plan. So how important is it that we take the time to write things down and get them captured on a plan so we can recruit others?
Oh, so critical. I think we think it's for other people, and it is, but it's more for you than it is for anyone. And so when it just lives in your mind, it's still nebulous. And by putting it down on paper, there is such power in that exercise, as well as doing the math that's required for some of the planning that's going to happen, because your brain needs to be able to latch onto it and go to work, where it's like, what does seeing 40 patients a week equate to in money coming in? What does 80 people a week? What does that look like? What's my overhead going to be there? And that's brain exercise. But when you skip that, again, I'm going to take it to the manifestation of it. You can't be a channel for that to come through then, because it's too fuzzy.
Yeah. The written plan will, just the discipline of capturing those thoughts, it just forces you. I have got a fly flying around my studio right now that, if anybody's watching us on YouTube right now, it's like, what is he swatting at? It's like, sorry about that. I've got a fly that's just buzzing around my head. And so you guys know this is an organic experience. So the process of capturing the plan and forcing the function of saying, all right, so I've got to create something that is a soup to nuts plan that I could then bring in the right experts to help, to equip them to help me manifest what I'm trying to accomplish here. Right. So, that plan is going to start with what we call a practice plan, right? And that practice plan is like, how do you want to practice? Like, how do you like to practice? Like, I know, there are different, techniques. There's different approaches to like patient care. Are you going to be adjusting only? Are you going to bring out the modalities? Do you want to teach like chiropractic wellness lifestyle elements? Are you going to be doing therapeutics, right? Like, exactly how do you want to practice? And then it's like, well, who do you love to take care of, and what problems do you love to solve? And, you're going to spend your time doing this. So what do you love to do, right? Who do you love to work with? The problems you love to solve? How do you love to solve them, right? Getting clear on all that practice plan piece. And then of course is the process and procedures of how you deliver that, so how do you create value and add value and deliver value? That's critical that all that is captured in a plan. So we're talking about your processes and procedures around the domains of marketing or attraction and conversion, which is your sales process, and delivery, which is your retention process, team building, finances, right? There's so much to that. And then from there, we have a business plan. And the business plan is like, how's this business going to be profitable, right? So at the end of the day, you're in business. Yeah, we're in the business of saving lives. And when business is good, everybody wins. But you're a business, right? So nobody here starts chiropractic business trying to be a nonprofit, right? So there's a lot of unfortunate nonprofits out there because they didn't take into account the inflows and outflows that create profit, in a business. So this is all part of that financial plan that you'll need to put together for the banking and to get your financing. And then you have your marketing plan, your team building plan, right? So there's a lot of planning that goes into this capturing your vision piece. And I know that it sounds overwhelming. So, let me, this is a spoiler alert. What we're going to make available to anybody listening to this, if you want to jump on to speak to one of our remarkable launch experts, we're going to do a free consultation that's going to be available to you. And we'll take you through what we call a launch readiness assessment, right? So we'll walk you through this and answer any questions you have and give you direction, et cetera. So there'll be a link in the show notes so you can schedule that. Maybe you're lucky enough to jump on a call with Dr. Lona, which would be just awesome. But just don't freak out. Listen to what we're saying. These are all the moving parts. We got to get them in play. And we want to make sure that we're helping you guys see around corners. Like, we don't want you guys to just kind of wander into the wilderness by yourself, because if you try to do this on your own, you're going to waste time. And again, time is money. You're going to waste time and you're going to waste money. You will absolutely spend more money trying to make this happen with a very, very low likelihood of you actually manifesting your vision story for success. So number 3, so now that we've got our vision story captured in our plan, and we've got our plan, everything's delineated. Now we have to start our search, right? Which is finding your ideal location. Like, what are some of the high points? Like, you've launched 4 practices. What are the most important things? Like, what's your quick, high, most priority list? Like, what are you looking for? What are you looking at when you're trying to determine where on earth do you want to start this next center?
Oh, well, before I go into that, I just want to click back for 1 second and say that when you're doing that planning, like, it is a head and a heart conversation. And so when you think about, sometimes it's like, gosh, what he just rattled off there is so much to think about. Start with, what would I just want to experience myself? If I went into a practice, what do I want to experience? And if you can put that down on paper, then you can start to get into all the details and the math. That's going to be more of the heady exercise of, like, what is the overhead? What is this going to do? How do I equate to some of this, like, business end of things that maybe you've never done before? And then as you have that vision, you take it into the search. When you think about, like, how do I envision my practice when people are walking through those doors? What type of building am I in? Is it an open layout? Who's sitting in the chairs? How long are they sitting in the chairs? That's how then I think you do the art of manifestation, because you will get to walk into spaces as you're, searching out what's available in your region, if you've got that narrowed down, and it's going to hit you where it's like, yeah, I could see myself here. Or maybe I don't know yet. I don't know if this is the right place. And you keep looking. And that's, again, where, you can't bypass that vision part in the beginning, because you won't know if you're in the right place if you don't have a vision. So there's some very obvious things that you're looking for, like parking and signage, and how are people going to find you? And on some level, I think that's the easier stuff, but you can't overlook that. I think that's my overview of that, if you will.
Just awesome. And I love that you went there. Like all things, it's heart, head, hands, feet. Right. So, just, this is a heart project. Like, you're going to spend a lot of time here. Like, don't be haphazard about this. Don't back into it. Don't fall into things, right? Like, literally, one thing I said at Life University was, you can do whatever you want to do. And you should find that really freeing. Like, design the practice that you would love to be a patient in. Design the practice, design the place that you would love to work in. You're going to be there a lot, right? So you're going to spend a lot of time there. Like, make sure, like, everything about that place, the look, the feel, the vibe, the energy, the music. I mean, I live in New Hampshire, right? So, and I'm a surfer, right? So it's notable, like no big deal if you live in Hawaii or you live in California and you're a surfer. It's like, but I live in New Hampshire and the only time we have waves is in the winter. So I surf in the snow, right? So it's notable, right? So, fine line between committed and committable, right? So if you're a New England surfer, like my wife Camilla is just like, I don't know if you should tell patients like you surf in this winter, they're going to think you're crazy anyway. I'm like, no, it's just who I am. So you knew that walking in our practice. I mean, our whole staff, everybody was in Hawaiian shirts, right? So there were surfboards on the wall that said, chiropractic, catch the wave, right? So we had on the perimeter, we had surf movies going and we played cool music and people were like, I love the vibe of this place. So you're in March in Boston, the weather sucks, right? So, and you're like 5 months into crappy weather and you walk in, it's like, yeah, this is where I want to be right now. They just loved it. So that was just an expression. I mean, every detail, the paint in our office was called Blue Surf. I mean, it was like literally like everything that we did was congruent with just expressing, creating this environment where we wanted people to feel love and they wanted to know that we loved our work, right? We loved taking care of people. We love what we're doing, right? And man, that doesn't just happen. Like that was just part of a vision story. So I remember when it came to like deciding where we were going to practice, this was interesting because Camilla and I met at Life University. We met actually at the first quarter party. So we went to school together, like as a couple the whole time, like the whole time, like 2 weeks into school. And we've been together ever since. That's 30 years ago, right? So it's crazy for me to even say that out loud. It's actually more than 30 years ago. But I remember this whole process of, going through all this vision casting together because we knew, innately we knew we were going to be together. We were going to practice together. So this was a shared vision story. And we had to capture a vision for both of us. And if you're going to do this with a partner, if somebody, you got to do this together and make sure that it's manifesting what you both want and would love. Right. So, and then she's from Sweden. I'm from Boston. And we knew we wanted to be near one of our families because I had a hard time, telling people you have to have your family under regular chiropractic care, right? And not have my family under regular chiropractic care. Like, so, and I knew it was going to take me to headlock them and drag them in and make sure that they, that they change their lifestyle. Right. So I'm just the guy to do it. So that was what we decided was we were going to practice near Boston. And we knew we weren't going to go to Sweden and we were going to inspire her sister. One of them, we ended up inspiring both of them to become chiropractors. So they're taking care of her family in Sweden. So where in the world do you want to be? We knew we were in the United States. Where we want to be in Massachusetts. We want to be in Boston. Do you want to be suburban? Do you want to be rural? Do you want to be suburban? Okay, so do you want to be in an urban setting? Do you want to be in a professional building with other paraprofessionals? Do you want to be in a strip mall? Do you want to be in a standalone building? Do you want to be in a? I thought it was going to be a renovated old Victorian, like the dental office that my mom worked in. I thought that was in my vision story originally. It's like that's what we're going to do. Thank heavens we didn't do that. But what in your mind's eyes is like, oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So that the more clarity you have, the more readily you'll be able to say yes when you're looking for spaces and how quickly your nose will come. You'll be like, yeah, no, that's not it. It's just not the spot. All right. Number 4, now we found our spot, right? So we've got our vision, we got our plan, we've searched and found our ideal location, the build out, which is actually manifesting the vision, right? Creating your physical plant. Man, we both have a lot of scar tissue on this one. So, what are the kind of the blind spots? What are the missteps they take when it comes to the construction piece of this? Meaning the whole manifestation of the physical space.
Well, you're out of your domain, right? So this is where, again, you've got to have your people, which I know this is part of the conversation of like, who do I need on my team? You're going to need a contractor. You're going to need people who can see the space. You definitely need someone looking at like patient flow and where the issues are going to be. I remember in my first space, which I'm still sitting in my first space right now, but now it's double the size, that I had my CA in a corner essentially. So if you had someone who was like a long talker, we called them, like she was pinned, she couldn't get out. So I think I knocked down walls that first 2 years, like several times. Because of how I didn't know what I didn't know in the beginning. And that's part of it is like, when you get into like, I've got the space and I got to get it ready now and I'm almost ready to launch, there's there's a lot of things that people can save you from yourself on if you allow them to, because you never have done it before and you can't see what you don't know. So for me, a lot of it was layout. A lot of it also was just being willing to be coached and learn new systems and learn a system, and really just recognizing that even though certain things may not feel comfortable or even like you in the beginning, nothing does yet, because you don't have any street cred and you're going to need to learn some and morph it into your own as you go. So I would say so much of it in the beginning is you got through school and maybe you've launched yourself on some level, but you also are realizing you're just beginning again. And so that humbleness of like, I got a lot to learn.
Yeah. And what you said there with the multiple iterations of a practice, right? So to recognize that you'll probably go through at least 2 or 3 iterations of your practice as you open up, right? So, and that should be intentional. That should be part of your plan. It shouldn't be like, oh, snap, I didn't do a good job putting this together, and now I'm going to spend stupid money fixing what I did wrong, right? So, and we both did that, right? Like I hear you, and I certainly did that. I spent way too many weekends with a Sawzall and contractors because I was like, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. Right. So, and the reality is that I could have avoided those expenses. That was just dumb tax. Right. So, but if you have a plan where you're like, okay, so here's iteration 1, this is what we must have to be open, to have a professional setting that's beautiful. And it has everything I absolutely need to open up, right? So bootstrapping this thing, but I'm not cutting corners that shouldn't be cut, right? So, and there's a plan that the next iteration, 12 months from now, we're going to be adding these elements. And then the third iteration, which might be, years from now, 2-3 years from now, we're going to have the wish list items, right? So this is like really important that you get very clear on that, and that you have an expert that's guiding you through this process, because you're either going to spend the money on the front end or you're going to spend it on the back end. The money on the front end is going to be a choice. The money on the back end is not going to be a choice, right? So the money on the front end is actually a creative process. The money on the back end is you're paying problem whack-a-mole, right? So, and that gets way more expensive, right? So trust us, listen to the two of us. Say, remember, we've launched 1,000 practices. So we're telling you that there is a paint by numbers process that you can follow, and you can spend twice as much money and twice as much time and be unhappy with the product on the backside of it. And that's wicked daunting when you're already broke, when you're already deep in debt. Like, I mean, I want everybody that's listening right now to recognize the two of us right there. There's no silver spoons here, right? So it's like, we were more than broke, right? Like, you have so much debt, and it's overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming. You just have to look at this as like, this is part of the investment that I'm making to set myself up for serving the mission that's going to turn into this extraordinary career. Don't worry. You're going to make lots of money. Lona, am I right? You're going to make lots of money. Just focus on setting this thing up. Do it right. Be smart, and recognize that there's a little restraint. Show a little restraint in the beginning, and have a plan so that you can manifest things over the next 3 years.
So good. I want to tell you a quick story that I think, because I'm looking at the vision, plan, search, build out, launch, and I forgot this because this happened a few years ago now. But when I first did my first business plan, I did 2 locations. I did one in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, which is where my main practice is, my first practice. And then I did a second one for Hudson, Wisconsin, which is about 70 miles east, right outside of Minneapolis. And at the time, I had no vision for having multiple practices. I just didn't know which city I was going to choose. And this is just how crazy things work when your mind latches onto something. 3 years in, I started opening another practice. It was in Hudson, Wisconsin. The weird thing is, the place that I ended up choosing for my location had the same tenants. They had moved from where I had looked 3 years previous. They would still be my next door neighbors. And I was like, that is a sign right there that this is our space and this is where I'm supposed to do the build out. And so I'm telling you, we know this as chiropractors. There's something so much more to this physical plane than just what meets the eye. And that's why you cannot skip the beginning parts of this, because you want that extra something working through you to manifest your dreams. So you can't bypass that, because it's going to happen. And you can line up these crazy things that are so like harmonious, really. But it's not random. None of this is random, as Dr. Stevens said. And that's where the work comes in.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. It's, the more work that we put into the vision casting process, the luckier we get, right? So, as that universe conspires on our behalf to manifest what it is that we have unearthed, that is genuine and authentic and aligned with, our core values and our vision story and our purpose and our mission. It's like you have to get in there and dig around and be able to say, all right, let's let go of all the limiting beliefs I have right now. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, but this is where it's going to land. This is where it's like, you literally just have to get there into a place you're like, yeah, okay, now I have total clarity. Now we can start worrying about the how. All right. Last thing, the launch. All right. So now we've gone through this. So we've got our vision. What does success look like? The plan, capturing it, the search, looking for that ideal spot, the build out, actually manifesting that physical plan. Now it's the launch. Now we're open for business. Right. So, talk to us about what are the key things? What should you expect? It's like, it's 60 days before my opening. And I'm not talking about the grand opening party. I'm talking about keying the door and I'm open for business. 30 days. We're a week out. We're the day of you unlock that door. And, next thing you know, it's, you're overwhelmed and a huge flow of new patients flowing in.
Well, I think a lot of it is a mind game. And so if you can, use the tools that are available to you from mentors and from programs like the Launch program, where you're not wondering what you should be doing next because it's laid out for you, and keep yourself just diligent to that. Like, it will lead to what you want if you work the system. I think where people get off track from that is they don't know, and then they don't take any action, and somehow they think just because their door is open that somehow people will find them, and that doesn't work like that. And so, that 60 days prior to opening is such a critical time for you to be getting your mind right, practicing how your systems are going to be, training in a staff person, pounding the pavement any way that is possible to meet people. I always say to new doctors, like, practice is a popularity contest at first. It's like, who can I meet and be genuine? Like, these are lifetime relationships that you're going to be creating, especially if you see yourself practicing there and not leaving, which most of you hopefully have selected a location that this is your practice. Someone may not come in that first year, even that they may be one of your best people, but it took them 5 years to step foot in the door, and that's okay. And I think we lack that vision at first to realize that this is a long game, and you're starting that long game, and you're planting seeds that some of them aren't going to grow into that oak tree for many years, and that's okay. You just keep going.
So good. So good. I just think back as you're saying, I can remember, I always said to Camilla, we're in business. Like, I remember 90 days out, we had secured the spot. We knew we were going to be, we had just about to pen the lease. I think we penned the lease like 60 days or 75 days before we opened, because we had to do our construction and everything. Maybe it was 90 days, probably 90 days out. And I was like, okay, so we're in business. We're not open for business, but we're in business now, right? Like the clock is ticking. Right. And we had this plan, and we knew we had to execute on that plan. And it was, you don't sit back and wait. Like you said, there's an action plan that is going to require everything you got, like right up out of the gate. And, everyone in that community has got to know who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Right. And that's a big part of just the, you're going to be not just building a physical plant. There'll be weekends you'll be in there, painting walls, and you'll be hanging up posters, and, you'll be assembling your furniture, and you'll be, getting your paperwork organized, et cetera, et cetera. That's what you're going to do at night and on the weekends, et cetera. But don't forget to get outside of that practice and get out into the community, because all the people that are not in your practice yet are not in your practice. And you've got to be bold, and you've got to get out there, and it can't just be my digital footprint and my, pithy comments and social media and my ads that I'm running. That, of course, has to be intrinsic to your marketing plan. But there's nothing like getting out into your community and meeting those surrounding people, so that you can wind up, so that by the time you're 60 days in, you have that big grand opening, you've built out your patient base, you have some followers, you've developed some ambassador relationships, and you fill that schedule book up with a whole bunch of new patients that show up to celebrate your grand opening. So, and you're launched. It's just awesome. I'm excited about it. Dr. Lona, you are awesome. We are psyched to have you as one of our launch experts. I know that people are blessed by just listening to your wisdom here, and they want to get more of you. So I want to make sure that they know that they can reach out to us you can schedule a consultation. So it's a free consultation. You can get some time with one of our Remarkable Launch experts, Dr. Lona being one of those. And we will walk you through what we call a launch readiness assessment, which is a very objective, hold your hand, walk through, paint by numbers, question and answer process that'll help you get clarity around exactly what do you need to get done. And then we'll give you some direction as to what you should do next. There's a link down below here. You can click the link. I'm sure if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put it up, the QR code on the screen as well. Just Dr. Lona, you are just wonderful. We just love hearing from you, and we just welcome you to the Remarkable CEO podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Steve. My pleasure.
All right. God bless everybody.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our Remarkable Success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy.
What's up, Remarkables? Hey, this is Dr. Stephen Franson with the Remarkable CEO podcast. We've got some good friends in the studio, the virtual studio. You probably recognize these guys. I'm sure you've heard of the organization, but you're going to get to have a conversation with the men who came up with this concept and who are delivering such huge value to our profession. This is Team Syntropy, the boys from Syntropy. It's Dr. Aaron and Dr. Pat. What's up, boys? So glad to have you on the podcast today.
How's it going, Doc?
All good. Good to see you.
It is remarkable as I open up our conversation today. Hey guys, you know what? I personally, I want to advocate for what you guys are doing conceptually, but also and actually, like watching this thing manifest. It's really, I have a passion for chiropractic as an art. We all love the story of the three-legged stool, the art, science, and philosophy of chiropractic. In the Remarkable practice, we teach the fourth leg, which of course is business acumen, right? So you can't be missing any of those four legs if you want to optimize your chiropractic business. But we joked just before we just hit the record button, but we were laughing so we weren't crying, right? Which is, listen, at the end of the day, you can't fake the art, right? So it's like the art, the science, the philosophy, the business acumen. Yeah, you can tell a great story. You can learn a lot in the books, man. But there's nothing like the ability to deliver the art of the life-saving chiropractic adjustment. So I just want to recognize you guys. I want to appreciate you guys for bringing the old school to the new school and making sure that all of our chiropractors who are currently in the field are optimizing, building their skill sets, and that the students who are coming out of school, we can hit the accelerator button for them and help them get their hands right? Get their head right with their confidence and their certainty. So that comes across in their word and their walk. Man, I just so appreciate you guys just elevating the profession, especially the younger docs out there, and teaching them how to become world-class adjusters. Want to appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to be able to do this. I mean, it's something that it really came out of a void. I'm sure you've been in this game long enough. You've had, I don't know how many associates, but overall, it seems like the quality level is dropping, and it's no fault necessarily the schools. They have their objective to achieve, but around the world, we are losing the art collectively. There are certainly exceptions, but it's our goal to help create the best adjusters on the planet and bring that art back.
Just love it, man.
Exactly.
Just love it. So, as a CEO, I can speak to this. I had 39 associate doctors over about a 17-year period in practice. And I loved it. That's where I fell in love with coaching chiropractors and developing chiropractors to be, remarkable doctors. And a big part of our training was the clinical side, everything from the analysis to the case management to, of course, the chiropractic adjusting, right? So, in the art of the adjusting, and I'm very passionate about that, right? So, that was a big part of our program, was a big part of its success. But as hard as we worked, the truth is, when it comes to adjusting, there's nowhere to hide, right? So you've got a new doc coming into an environment and you've got established patients or even new patients. There's no story you can tell that makes them feel like, man, actually there's no value versus high value when there's a disparity between their experience from doctor to doctor or from visit to visit. So the fact of the matter is you guys are elevating that game and helping CEOs and practice owners overcome one of the biggest challenges in practice, which is bringing your associate doctors up to speed, because we know the truth. is you cannot scale, right? So you can't go from build to scale. You can't scale without having multiple practitioners by definition. So talk to us a little bit about your system, the process. Like, inquiring minds want to know, guys. So, what's the deal with Syntropy? It's like, how can we outsource some of our training of ourselves and our chiropractors on our team to Syntropy? And, what's the secret sauce for the accelerator button?
We have students that come to our seminars, and then this range students to chiropractors that have been in practice for 40 years. And so the whole reason it works for no matter where they are at on their path is because we teach fundamentals. And it's like teaching the fundamentals of adjusting. The deeper you go, the better you get. And so we've had tons of chiropractors in there. Say guys have been in practice for 10 years, doing great, but their body's already starting to get beat up. And so then it's like, okay, beat up. So we help them take better care of their bodies while they're still helping people. But then we just had in Atlanta, we were in a seminar, and we had 3 or 4 chiropractors that came together, and they've been in practice each for like 30 years. And they're like, the hardest thing that we can do right now, like we can't find students and new chiropractors that adjust. Like we get them in our practices and nobody can adjust. And they're like, this is the program that they need.
Absolutely. And like, what is the secret sauce? How do we do that? It's there are, just like you have attraction, conversion, retention, you've got your different seasons of practice. It's an inch wide, but a mile deep. So we have systems built around what is every single attribute that you need to train to be a great chiropractor. And the first one is what we call drop-in, present time consciousness. It's a very pragmatic, not esoteric thing, but we train on that. It's understanding the biomechanics, the analysis, the neurology, that how to locate, analyze, and correct the subluxation. It's patient positioning for the maximum comfort. It's DC positioning so that you are not beating your body up. How can you be the most efficient and have no wasted energy bouncing back in your own body? And then the last little piece is like, how do we develop force application? How do you develop speed, smoothness, precision, accuracy? And that's the inch wide. It goes a mile deep in actual implementation.
Oh man, you're singing my favorite song, Dr. Pat, when I hear that. It's just so good, man. Because it's hard to describe something that does seem esoteric, right? So, but at the end of the day, all art does, but at the same time, you can teach art, take somebody from a B+ to an A+ student for sure, in its application. And at the very least, compress time, right? Where it would usually take 5 years for somebody to figure out, oh, that doesn't work and that doesn't work, and all that trial by error that we all, inherently go through as practitioners. If you can pull that time forward, man, that really helps out that doctor as well as the, the CEOs who are hiring doctors, right? So
it's
I'll
also,
be honest with you. No,
go ahead, Steve. No, I was going to say, it's also it's an energetic thing. Like if you are beating up your body as you go through and you're seeing X number of people, and then there's no way your body's going to allow you to go on and see X number of people times 2, because there's just this capacity block that is there within us, So, and ask me how I know. Went through that.
All right. So, you're talking to an old gondroid here. And I think that's officially the first time I've called myself an old gondroid. But yeah, 26 years of practicing Gonstead at a high level. And, we were seeing 350 people a day. So I had a team of associate doctors, but, I personally would see 200 people a day, and everyone was gowned and scoped, and we had 4 tables, and it was hardcore, man. It was more bar fight than ballet, but I mean, I got them around that room. I mean, it was, but you're talking to a hardcore chiropractic snob. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's like I'm a chiropractic snob when it comes to the adjustment. And in school, I was much, much worse. Now that I've coached thousands of chiropractors, I recognize there's more than one way to skin this cat, right? And I'm just psyched that people are, number one, creating the paradigm shift and teaching people the truth. Number 2, having that intention going into that room. Number 3, putting their hands on bodies and having an expertise in their craft and in the adjustment techniques. And I know that there's lots of approaches and lots of techniques. So I've really broadened that and opened my mind to it and get adjusted many different ways now, right? So, but I'm still a bit of a snob when it comes to who adjusts me, as I think we all should be. But you guys are bringing that continuity across the profession so that, it broadens that pool of people that I'd let adjust me. So I appreciate you for that.
It's awesome.
Here's the little secret. So I was out to dinner with my team when you guys taught your mini immersion. You gave a bit of a teaser seminar at one of our remarkable practice immersions. And after the fact, I got to talk to some of the gondroids that I had gone to school with. And I was like grimacing a little bit to being like, okay, how was it? And truth, hand to God, they were gushing. They couldn't compliment you guys enough. They couldn't say how they learned so much. It expanded their mind, grew their skills. And these are awesome chiropractors that have awesome skills. So the idea that these guys, that they were literally gushing is the word I'll use. They were so excited. They were from the concepts to the application, to your teaching, to the experience. Man, it was an A+. So I just want to thank you guys and recognize you guys for that. I don't know if I ever told you that story, but it was like, we were at dinner after the event and I got to hear that. And I was like, wow, man, if that is an A+ rating, I don't know what is.
That's awesome. Get the Gondroid seal of approval. That is like the ultimate. Thanks for that.
All right, guys. So how do our people learn more about Syntropy? How do they get involved? And I hope we're going to see you guys. I know you're success partners for the Remarkable Practice. I hope we're going to see you guys as a presence at all our upcoming immersions, because it not only is it awesome to see you guys personally and see you guys training with us, but also seeing that line of people that are all lined up to get adjusted during the breaks. I love to see that.
Yeah, we will be partners. We love what you guys are doing as well. We feel really aligned with you. So it's real easy. If you want to check us out, it's syntropychirotraining.com, SYNTROPY. And you can follow us on social media as well. You've got all our dates there for seminars. One other thing that we have as well, which is really cool, Stephen, is that we have an academy that we've launched. And we're really taking this from come to a seminar, have a jacuzzi experience, and then go home and feel lost on an island. And it's really helping people just take them by the hand and say, okay, this is what we learned. This is how we're going to continue to take you along this path to mastery. And that's been very, very exciting as well.
This is how you train it. This is your curriculum. We're going to move this forward in a time frame, and you will be a master if you just follow the bouncing ball, follow the steps.
Training. I love it, guys. Hey, you know what we say around Remarkable Practice? We're in the business of saving lives, and when business is good, everybody wins. So, you know what? I appreciate what you guys are doing to help us create more successful chiropractors. You know, what the world needs now is chiropractic. And what chiropractic needs right now is more successful chiropractors. So thank you for keeping a close 100%. Eye on the art, science, philosophy, and the business acumen of being a remarkable chiropractor.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic. And what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.